Hey, everybody, Steve DeLaviaga, Rise Consulting. I am with one of my largest concierge partners in the state of Nevada, Mr. Dustin DeHart from Nova Home Loans. Dustin, how are you, brother?
I'm doing well, Steve. Appreciate you having me on today, man.
Absolutely, man. Really excited. So, Rise Nation, we have this theory that we believe who you associate with, who you partner with, says a lot about who you are. And as you know, you're one of the top lenders in the state of Nevada. You're having one of your best years ever. You were recommended by two of my top concierge partners. So we love that we're in business with you, and thank you for what you do for the real estate community, our clients, our mutual partners. Thanks, brother. So let's get to it. Walk me through, like when you're growing up, you're going through what you're doing. What was an event, an adversity opportunity, what kind of shaped who you become today? Because you've been in this a long time, so you've been through the ups and downs. Walk me through what that was when you were going through young.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it's an adversity, but I think the younger generation would think it is an adversity, but nothing was handed to me in life, Steve, and I'm sure you're probably the same way. You know, I wasn't born into a rich family, and if I wanted something, I had to work and I had to get it, you know, from my first car to putting myself through school. You know, at a very young age, you know, I worked, you know, I think it was 10 years old, and I pretty much mowed everybody's lawn in the neighborhood, you know, every weekend. Yeah, even when I was 15, man, the only place that would hire me was McDonald's, of all places. But dude, I became employer of the year at McDonald's my first year, you know, and then, you know, and I worked in the restaurant industry, Steve, quite a long time, and you know, put myself through school working in the restaurant industry. And I tell you, people that waited tables or bartended or bussed tables, you know, there's a big added advantage of that because they really truly know the service part of everything, and it takes you a long way in life. I really believe that. So it really ingrained a lot of hard work and into me, and knowing, like, you know, every deal that if you don't overwhelm them with customer service, they can go to anywhere else, just like the restaurant industry.
So Dustin, think about this, right? Like, I worked at Country Scoop, a burger ice cream place.
Oh, okay.
You're at McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
15 McDonald's Employee of the Year.
Yeah.
I was a busboy at Coco's, where everybody was my boss except for the dishwasher, because I was but you're right. You learn, you know what you learn? It's like you just learn to work. Then you learn to work and be good at it.
Right.
And then at 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, you were just good at work. So then really that is your grounding, right? You were just a work ethic guy that learned how to be good at it. So you go to college. Where do you go to school?
I went to UNLV.
Nice. Okay. What was the major? It wasn't lending, probably. What was your major?
Yeah, so I was political science. So, yeah, that's so. I mean, that kind of takes me how to. And I got into the mortgage industry. Was you know, when I graduated, I was good. You know, law school was, you know, if you don't political science degree, you go to law school or you become a professor. It's not much, you know, unless you're going to go into politics. And you know, I ended up owning my own business for a little while right out of school, and you know, it didn't last.
What was that? What business was that?
It was a restaurant. It was a little pizza restaurant, and you know, I kept it alive for about 3 years, and just it was literally, man, 15, 16 hours a day of just barely making my rent, and I just said I gotta do something else. So I chose to go to law school was basically where I needed to go, and you know, in between working other jobs and studying for the LSAT, you know, a family friend of mine was in the mortgage industry, and I'm, you know, they're doing really well. And I'm like, I'm kind of interested in that. And next thing I know, I'm hired. And look, I got in at the less than stellar time, I guess, was 2007, right? Right.
Right when it started to tank.
Yeah, I didn't know any different, you know, and I got hired onto a big refinance corporate team, you know, so I just pick up the phone, I was closing deals, and, you know, I started to do really well at it. And then, you know, look, it was 2008. Next thing you know, they condensed that team from like 50 to 5, but I made the cut because, you know what, like going back to what we just said, you know, maybe I don't know as much as everybody, but I certainly can outwork you, you know? So I was the first one there, last one to leave. And then, man, I got licensed in about 15 states my first year in the business. So we had a big company. It was about 700 loan originators. So if anybody wanted to do a deal somewhere they weren't licensed, they had to run through me. And, you know, I carved out a decent living out of that, you know? And then, yeah, 2009 hit, and then I realized, well, the phone's not going to keep ringing for refinances anymore, and my company was starting to go under, and I tell you, see, I literally had no referral partners. I didn't really know how to structure a purchase because I maybe did two, throughout my career. So that was a
Two.
crossroad in life. So, yeah, and I just, I bought a new house. Great timing again, 2009, right? Good time to buy a house. And
Exactly.
I said, look, I've got to go get some referral partners, and I did. Just real estate agents, divorce attorneys, CPAs, and I hustled, and in a very trying time. I was still the top originator in that company, and then went to Nova, and Nova's not only helped me grow my business but quadruple it since then, and it's just been a great time. So
So
it's struggle,
that's a
but
lot. I love this. This is such a great thing to unpack. So a couple questions. One, you start in probably the toughest time in America for doing mortgages, right?
yeah, yeah, it wasn't easy.
That probably helped you. Do you think it
I
helped you in your career?
100%, man. I swear, because there were people so fat and happy back then, and I'm like, God, they're making 400 grand a year. Like, I couldn't even fathom it now,
Right.
but back then I was like, how are they even doing that?
Yeah.
And got still, buying every 5 houses and Mercedes, and I'm like, man, if I could just make half. Well, it didn't take that long, right? And then yeah, it did. And people said, if you can get through this, you're going to look behind and see all your everything in the mirror, because you've succeeded through this. And we did. It was a trying time, but I got through it. And and again, that adversity is really what helped me thrive in the mortgage industry.
So they cut 90% of the team, but not the new guy, Double D, Dustin DeHart, because the guy's like, man, this guy just works harder than everybody else. He's just figuring out
Yeah.
everybody else. And so the guy ended up taking a bet on somebody who, on paper, should have been one of the first guys that got let go, right?
Yeah,
Because you're
I was
new.
shocked I got it. Yeah, and the guys that made the team were all, I mean, the best salesmen there were. And then, look, I'll give them this. They were probably a little burnt out, but by the time I got in that team, I was outselling them within about a month or two, So,
I love
yeah,
it.
look, if you don't hustle and grind, you're going to get left behind.
This is a common theme in my successful rise partners is what I call work velocity, a high work motor. So then you go, no more refis. You lived on refis your whole career, never had anything different. Now you go, shoot, I got 2 refis. Now I got to go get purchase.
Yeah.
So what was it like? Was it all cold calling? Was it all just trying to build a referral? Well, how did you build your referral base process?
Well, it was first. It was, what realtors do I know, right? So it's
Yeah.
going after them, and then what realtors do you know that you can introduce me to, right? And then yeah, and it was, and then when a purchase contract would come in, well, I'm like, well, there's another realtor on this side, where most loan officers back then would never have thought of calling up the listing agent. I mean, most do now, but it was boom.
No,
That's
most
not a
don't
cold
do
call.
now.
Yeah,
You
you're
do now.
probably
Most
right.
don't.
Right. So it was, introducing myself. Hey, I've got this purchase, and they were blown away, because back then no one did that, right? And then, here's the expectations. We're going to close on time, and then we did, and say, hey, if everything I tell you is going to happen, can I take you to coffee or lunch and meet with you? And almost all of them did allow that. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. But next thing I know, I had 0 realtors, and within a year I had about 25. And that's basically what I do through the last 10 years, is just keep adding to the referral database, and making sure that you keep them.
I love this. And so now you're doing that. You build your base. Now I'm always curious too. You're one of the top producers at Nova. Now all of a sudden, how do you go from producing to now running a team and then leading branches and people? What made you make this step about adding staff, building a team, to this next step of managing a whole branch? Were you just ready for that? Was it something you wanted to do? Was it just thrown at you? What was the why?
Well, the team aspect's a good point, because, people, don't realize, like, there's only so much we can do, right? And I made some mistakes in the beginning. You know, it's number one, not building a team quick enough. And it is working countless hours thinking, well, why am I going to give somebody money when I can just do it? But you don't
Right.
realize, well,
I can
if
do
you're
that
high,
app better than they can. I
right,
can call, yeah, exactly.
right. And then Nova taught me the benefit of building teams, which I did. And look at, you know, there's a pros and cons of a team. Now, if you get the wrong team member, not only are they not going to help, but they're going to make your business worse, right? And that did happen to me up front. But I quickly surrounded myself with a great team. And, you know, when you're building a team, you really have to look at what your strengths are and what your not strengths are, right? And filling in those gaps. And the two guys that I've hired, I mean, they fit like a glove because one is on the technical side, one on the sales side. And my attention to detail, I have bad ADD, is not always there. And those guys fill in the gap for me. So I have a solid team. And then, yeah, going to the branch, man, I tell you, that was never something I ever even flirted with. I just was more myopic on building my team, and I didn't want to have to deal with other headaches. But, you know, after having two branch managers, one was okay, but then the last one we had before me, I'll tell you, Steve, I mean, I didn't think I was going to be working at Nova anymore. I mean, this is how bad he corrupted
Wow.
our branch.
The culture. He was a culture pirate. Yeah.
It was insane. I mean, I could do an hour on what he did, but I said, you know what, it's time for me to step up. And my CEO asked me if I'm ready. I said, yeah, I think I am. And man, I tell you, it's been a great move. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy helping people. And since I've taken over the branch, we've hit record years every single year, and one of the most profitable branches at Nova. So I'm happy I did it. And
so this is, if you're watching this is important. We all have a stage in life where we're player. We're just playing the game and we're winning the game and we're scoring points and killing. Then it gets to a stage where you go, man, my legs are tired.
Yeah.
Man, I'm tired of working every weekend, taking every call. So then you got to build a team. And you made a great point. Never is the first thing you build ever perfect ever, because we don't hire. The key's not hiring perfect. The key's firing fast and hiring slowly, so you can find people that would just what you said fits on each side of you. Then you pour into them because you become a better leader with them. And then it sounds like to me the branch was more of a, man, I'm tired of having guys that can't do this half as well as I could. Shit. Yeah. And your boss was probably right to say, well, no, Hammerhead, why don't you do it? And you're like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Yeah. And then you now I'll bet you get more juice, Dustin, about that loan officer you're mentoring and helping, who gets his third referral from a realtor, comes to you and goes, hey, man, I did what you said. I called. I got the seller. That gives you more juice than you now closing your own deal.
100%. You're right. I love it. And it's really gratifying, you know, to take somebody that I've hired that's, you know, was struggling at a different company and now doing more loans than they could ever dream of. And, you know, that it is fulfilling. It makes me, it's a great feeling, you know, and I love coaching nowadays, and, you know, and it's awesome seeing them thrive.
Well, having the right coaches and the right people with the right message is the key. There's a lot of people in real estate that coach and talk that haven't done shit, right? With someone like you that has done this at every level, those are the ones you want to pick your prophets well, and you're a good prophet to pick. I also got to brag about you. I saw John Volpe. You and I and John were all throwing around an email about something we were working on, and he says, Dustin, thanks for always breaking the mold and going above and beyond. That's a pretty cool sentence from your CEO who recognizes what you're doing at your level. So congrats, brother. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Give me a tactic. When you teach LOs today, give me a tactical thing. You say you have to do X, whether it's time block, you know, cold calls in the morning. What is the best tactic you teach today to your LO network base?
Well, those are two great things. You know, those are the easy things. I mean, when you break it down, to be a successful loan officer, I believe there's two paramount things that have to happen. Number one, you need knowledge, right? You have to, you know, as a real estate agent as well, but especially as a loan officer. I mean, there are so many damn guidelines and products and everything. And if you don't know how to do that and you can't make hard deals work, then you're going to get left behind, right? I mean, every week we get a deal from somebody that, you know, botched it, a Quicken Loans, and our referral partners saying, please help us out. Now, look, we don't solve every time, but more often than not, we do. So you have to make those hard deals work. And that's something my team really we really thrive on that. I mean, we've done that for a long time. And then it's communication, I think, man, is so important. I can't stress that enough. And that goes to time blocking, right? Making those calls, right? And it goes from soup to nuts, right? So, some LOs are good communicating when there's a deal on processing. Some don't. Some are good when they get a lead. You have to be good at all of it, right? When a lead comes in from a referral partner, man, you got to tell them what's going on with it, right? Even if you've made 4 calls and it's went nowhere. We live and die in our CRM system. I mean, you take all the widgets away from us, as long as we have our CRM system, we're going to be successful. And then, and in the communication part, yeah, it's every Tuesday when there's a deal on processing. Man, if first of all, there's a listing agent on the other side, right? You call them up every Tuesday and you send them a video when you get the contract, and you call them after it closes early. It's pretty easy to get an appointment with them because they're somewhat impressed, so, and letting the borrowers know. I mean, they're in this and they have no idea what's going on. And if you don't let everybody know everything that's happening, then you're failing at it, so we don't like our phone ringing with questions about what's going on. It barely happens because every Tuesday they're getting a call, they're getting automated emails, they're getting videos. And, I don't think you can overwhelm people with communication, but we certainly try, and if you can solve those 2 things as a loan officer or real estate agent, you just do those 2 things, your business better than anybody, and you communicate to all parties, you're going to be successful, in my opinion.
This is such a great nugget if you're listening. So his 2 nuggets: willingness to learn and a voracious learning appetite. Because I can tell you, I know with him, I'll call Dustin about something that just came out. He's like, hey, I'm still researching it. I'm done my reading. I need another couple of days. You're still learning, and you're handling 100+ loans a month throughout your whole network, right? So you got to be a voracious learner. And the second thing is, I love what you do. You run into the fight. You never hide from it. You know why your phone doesn't ring? Because you're proactively ringing it.
Right.
And to your point, people want an appointment with that listing agent. The best time to build rapport and credibility is when there's a deal in your house.
Exactly.
If I talk to you 4 times in the month that this thing's going to be in process, and giving you a status and an update, can I build some rapport? Can I get some personal information I can learn to build some rapport with you? And then can I ask permission at the end of that to go, hey, can we grab a coffee or lunch? I really enjoyed this transaction. Tough to say no, but when your first call is a prospecting cold call, easy to say no, right?
Sure. Yeah, and quite frankly, that's not a cold call. Once you built that rapport, and I mean, I'll tell you, there's been listing agents that didn't want to meet with us, and then 2 months later, they're calling us going, hey, can you fix this deal? Because
exactly,
we did what we said we were going to do. We, under promised and over delivered. We kept them in the loop with what was going on. Next thing we know, we got their business. It's crazy how it works like that.
All right. A loan officer comes to your team. When do you know this person is going to be great or this person is not going to make it? And what do you see that tells you that?
Yeah. Well, so in our business, it's really, I tell you, about every 3 months, in fact, I got a call yesterday from somebody that's brand new in our industry, right? And wants to join, wants to become a loan officer.
Shocking. Wants to be on your team, yeah.
Well, it's difficult. You're fighting an uphill battle because you got to get somebody to train you. I don't have time to do that, right? And then B, you got to bring in deals because I'm paying you whether you bring in a deal or not. Right. So I told the guy politely no yesterday, but about a year ago, he's a friend of mine. He's actually a school teacher, just smart as could be. I mean, but I was still a little worried. I'm like, I don't know, Corey, are you sure you're gonna be able to handle this? I go, well, go get licensed first. So I thought in like 6 months, he'd call me and go, I got licensed. Literally 4 days later, he's like, all right, that's done. Now what's next? I'm like, oh my God. So he just picked it up right away. He's a sponge, and not even being in the industry for a year, he's averaging like 10 loans a month, and he's out originating, LOs that I've got in my branch that have been in this business for 20 years. So every month when these numbers come out, I make sure to point him out to everybody. Like, hey, by the way, Corey closed 11 deals this month, and I think it's his 9 months in.
Is
So
it all just work velocity, communication, following your plan? Well, or is it just he had that?
everything I've told him to do, he just does it like a robot and goes and picks it up. And, and if he will try and figure it out himself for an hour, and then he'll make that call. Hey, oh, okay, now I get it, because he's already tried to do it, right? So those guys are hard to find. Yeah. And then, you can pretty much tell within about a month whether or not somebody's going to make it or not. Do they have the work ethic? Is this is way over their head? And, it happens. And I've had to let people go because, if you're not making our minimum production standards, we're paying you for nothing. So, it's nothing personal, but it is what it is.
I love this piece. I think it is 30 days in our business, because in 30 days, are they showing up early? Are they staying a little later? Are you telling them things 3 and 4 times, or one time and then it's going to be executed? And are they trying to solve their problem before they make it your problem? Right. And this is so now, and I think if I'm telling you, if you're starting off in this business, work velocity, likability, willingness to learn, those 3 things in lending, real estate, title, whatever, tough to lose if that's your
You do
mantra.
that, the business will eventually come. I mean, it is what, it's pretty simple. It sounds cliche. It's weird how that works out,
But Dust, I always say this: our business is not difficult; it's just hard, right? It's not you can tell them exactly what to do to make a ton of dough, but it's hard to do it every day. Yeah, exactly. All right, one thing you wish you knew, 24-year-old, 5-year-old Dustin gets out of the pizza business, coming to, what do you wish you knew about this space that would have helped you get there faster, that it took you longer to learn now that you're looking back?
Well, it's kind of going back to the team aspect. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Hiring somebody to help me before I did would have been great, because I kind of plateaued. I was doing, I'm like, man, I just can't do more than this amount every month, right? And then hiring the right person, you know what I mean? So once I put those 2 pieces together, it was like a rocket ship, I tell you, and
so what was that like? Like, what was what were you doing? 10 to 15 yourself every month? Then you build the team, and what were you doing when it was just you?
Exactly. Yeah. It's, about 10, 15 every month, working.
And you're killing yourself, working 100 hours a week, all that shit.
Yeah. And then hired the right guy, who he is. And he's Johnny. Like, first of all, he goes, you don't need any more referral partners. Dude, you just need to work the leads that you guys have right now. And he went in, and I mean, he lives and dies in our CRM system all day long. I mean, I don't want to say it was overnight, but next thing you know, it was 20, 25 deals, and it just kind of skyrocketed. And hiring the right technical loan officer instead of somebody that doesn't really know what they're doing, that was tremendous help as well,
So I do think this is hard, because that's why, like, sometimes great players aren't great coaches, because they just, but Nova was the one that kind of gave you the framework of how to put a team together, how to look at that. And I just tell you, the opportunity the last 6 months to work with you has been such a blast, because I can sense in my world, having managed, 3,600 people at a time, right away who's intentional and purposeful and who's not. Right. And I hate to say it, but in our level of business, you and I aren't trying out anymore. It's the Bull Durham program, man. We ain't trying out. If you're not serious, it's cool. You just can't play with us. That's okay, right? And I've been so ecstatic to watch our realtors that engage you be like, man, this guy's really good. And it's funny, Dustin, because they don't know the difference. If they always use their friend who's pretty much just done a little bit, they don't know. Then they get with you and they go, man, this guy's amazing. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's why he does 120 loans a month. It's a different world. So, all right, one thing, if you were going to give advice to somebody getting in the game, one thing you would tell them they're going to get into real estate, mortgage, et cetera, that you'd say, hey, listen, here's my end all be all advice. Think about this before you get into it. And then if you do pour into it, what's that look like? What's that sentence look like?
Yeah, man, it's kind of going back to what we said. It's finding the guy in the office that's doing the most business and picking his brain, right? Or if it's a real estate, whatever, it's the buying Buffinis, or getting all of them and putting together what works for you, right? Because everybody's different, right? You've got a certain strength of this. Well, combine them all and figure out what works for you and tackle it, But at the end of the day, it's hustle and grind. And I tell you, I've told people that have, struggled to pick this industry up right away. Hard work doesn't go unpaid forever, man. If you keep at it, it's eventually going to come, and you just got to do it. And you got to wake up every day. You got to get in the office. You got to make the phone calls, and it eventually will come around to you.
I love this because that's a nugget. Hard work doesn't go unpaid very long.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact of life. All right, crystal ball for me now in closing. Crystal ball the market. Like you and I talked about this in Vegas.
Yeah.
This might be our best year ever in terms of transactional real estate. What do you think? Do you think this thing, the third quarter, fourth quarter, let's just go 3, 4, and then 1 of 2021. What's your instinct of it? Are we slowing down, staying the same, going up? What are you seeing? What's your numbers experience tell you?
Look at the rest of this year. I think mortgage. You couldn't pick a better year to be a loan officer or real estate agent, in my opinion. You almost
Agreed.
feel bad because everybody we know is struggling, and we're all having and if you're not having one of your best years ever, you might be in the wrong industry. As a loan officer, I don't see this slowing down till for the rest of the year. Just because of rates being so low and refinances. The real estate market itself, for real estate agents, in Vegas, we actually last month we hit the highest home value we've ever hit, right?
Correct.
Somewhat expected, right? That we've got that pent up demand that kind of shot out, right? And man, I tell you though, if you're a listing agent, you better start making that phone ring because it's gonna be ringing soon because people that are in forbearance and they've got to get out of that. And, we're in Vegas, man, 25% of our city is still unemployed. And I'm worried we're going to shut down again. So that's not going to change anytime soon. So people that are sitting on $100,000 in equity, well, what are they going to do? They're going to call up their their real estate agent and list their house, park $100,000 at a bank and be a happy renter until things straighten out, in my opinion. So I see a lot more supply hitting. I think demand's going to level out a little bit. So going into next year, I think that we could see property values come down a little bit. Nothing like 2009. None of those dynamics are obviously there right now, but I see more supply, less demand. So as a real estate agent, I think you guys, especially listing agents, the year next year, you better grab it because people are going to be listing their homes, in my opinion.
That is such great advice. And I'm telling you right now, you got to start making your own inventory right now, real estate community, because you hit on the head, Dustin. The only way you can get your equity out of your house if you're in forbearance or your employment's changed is to sell it. You can't refi. You can't refi a guy who's 2 months in forbearance or just got, reduced to a 50% job currently or is out. So for all of us telling that story that consumers don't know, we in the space know we got to tell that story so they know they can get that equity out, stay in that house, let their kids go to that school, keep their same friends while they, to your point, rent happily for a year or two. They figure out what's next. That's the nice one.
And as a loan officer, if you're going to sit, I know you're fat and happy right now, but man, the party's going to end, right? Like the rates are going to go up and you literally have refinanced everybody in your database. So, again, I know you're working countless hours, but if you're not prepping in for next year, especially into the second quarter, when you need to start getting more purchase business and you need more referral partners, you're going to be scrambling. That's for sure.
This is, Dustin, this is why I love guys like you and Greg and the whole group. You're busy you've ever been, and you're working with a firm like ours, already thinking about Q2, Q3 of next year, knowing you've got to build me runway, Steve. You've got to build opportunities now that when this thing happens, I can just transition and not go like this, like most people do with the market. And that's important, guys. You're listening to this. Dustin is already preparing for Q2 and 3 of next year, knowing refis. He, like you said, he's refied the whole world now. Now it's like, I got to go get better purchase business, period.
Yeah, we're farmers, man. You got to plant those seeds and watch them grow because, if they don't grow, then you're going to be hungry. That's for sure.
Well, man, I appreciate you. I love you. Thanks for being a great partner. And thanks for the time today. Dustin DeHart, everybody, Nova Home Loans, Rockstar. Appreciate you.
All right, brother. Take care.